All right. Well, welcome everyone to our training today. My name is Tawani Young. I am the Vice President of Curriculum and Instruction for ST Math. We have some other great ST Math folks on the line with us, and Melanie, who is going to help us out today. She's going to be catching your questions in the chat. So if you have questions as we go along, please feel free to type those into the chat. I'm going to cover a lot of information for you guys today, but I'm really excited to be here and really, really excited to share with you about our ST Math Immersion program. So when I was thinking about doing this, I thought, how do I take this informative presentation with this great content and do it through WebEx and still make it engaging, especially when we're in the era of all these meetings on WebEx and Zoom. And so what I come up with is social media and using the chat features. That is the best way to do it. So if you would indulge me today, every time you hear something that you like or that resonates with you, type math is cool in the chat. One of the things that we endeavor to do at Mind is to help everyone see the beauty and the joy that's in mathematics. So you're going to help us do that today. When something resonates, to type math is cool in the chat. I also selfishly am trying to get more Twitter followers than my friend. So I am putting my own little Twitter tag handle there, along with our Mind Research. So if you get some good little nuggets that you would like to tweet out, please do that. And don't forget to tag us and tag me so I can tell my friend that I've got lots of followers on Twitter. And you can use the hashtag STMath as well. So remember, every time something cool resonates, type math is cool in the chat. And that'll help me to know if what I'm saying is resonating with you guys. Sound good? All right. So what are we trying to do here? Our big goal is to change the narrative. If you've been teaching math for any number of time, like even just like a week, you have heard kids tell you, I used to be good at math until. I spent 18 years in urban education before coming to Mind. I was a math teacher, a math director, and without fail, I would have kids come to me and say, I used to be good at math until third grade or until fractions or until this thing. And the thing that is so bad about this is that you have kids walking around feeling like they've reached the height of their mathematical abilities at 8 years old. That's not okay. And so what we're endeavoring to do, and I know that's what all of you guys are endeavoring to do, is to change the narrative. And we know that because of the pandemic and because of all the unfinished learning and the students that weren't able to have the kind of access we wanted them to have, this I used to be good at math until is only going to be exacerbated. And so we want to figure out, how can we make this better? And so here at Mind Research, what we have done is we've taken our program that we know works, that we know inspires kids, and we've wrapped this math curriculum around it. So this is a full blended learning solution that you're going to get. So it's got the one-to-one with ST Math, and then it's got this full curriculum. So there's a digital curriculum that teachers will have access to. And so when we decided to do this, I told you that I was in urban education for 18 years. I was a former math director. One of my tasks was always summer school, figuring out what we were going to do for summer school, helping to design summer school. And so when I came to Mind and had the opportunity to design a program that could be used in the summer or that could be used as an enrichment tool for unfinished learning, I wanted to do something different. So my team and I created 3 goals that we were going to have with this curriculum. One was to focus on students, the other is to focus on teachers, and the third is community. So I'm going to start with students. We wanted to make sure that whatever we created, students were going to receive a really rich learning experience, that they were going to be able to have access to rigorous mathematics on their grade level. We know what happens when we're always trying to catch kids up. It seems like they're never going to get there. Well, with ST Math and the visual models, we're able to keep kids on their grade level and give them access. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. We also wanted to create something that was going to give them deep conceptual understanding, but also build those social emotional skills, this growth mindset, all of those skills that are really important to be successful. And so all of that was our focus in designing what you're going to see for students. So first, access and opportunity. We know that ST Math, if you've been using it, you know that the spatial temporal model, it provides this visual access to ST Math, which is amazing. And so you might have kids that are sitting in a 5th grade class where they're adding and subtracting fractions that have no access to it. Maybe all they know is unit fractions or all they know is equivalent fractions. But what the model in ST Math does, it allows their knowledge, whether it's unit fractions, equivalent fractions, or fractions as models, to be access points to the grade level curriculum. And so we know that we can leverage this with our curriculum to really support students and have them have success. And we do that because what we build is based on the neuroscience of learning. It's based on that perception action cycle that if you're using ST Math, you are familiar with, where students are building schemas, they're getting feedback, and they're adjusting their thinking. There's a lot of problem solving that's in ST Math Immersion. There's a lot of strategy exploration and academic discourse. One of the huge focuses is on student thinking. So part of this program, students actually map out their thinking throughout the course of the program. And then they look at that and they evaluate and they think about the growth that they've had. And I'll share a little bit more about that as we go on. But what that does in the activities and mixing that with ST Math's one-to-one experience, what we found is that it's inspiring joy and confidence, growth, perseverance, causing kids to self-reflect, set goals, and so much more. The very first pilot that we did with this, we had, it was in a summer school setting, and I'll never forget that I walked into the classroom the 3rd day of the program, and I had a young man come up and he gave me a hug and he said, "Thank you for creating this because I hate summer school. I don't like math, but now I feel like it's something I can do." And so that's what we're able to do with this program. Really bring out what kids are already good at, making them the authors of their own learning. And so that's the student benefits. So the other focus we had was teachers. So built into the program is the teacher getting curriculum embedded professional learning. It's like job embedded PD built in because they're teaching it and they're learning as they go. So there's content, they're deepening their content knowledge, and they're getting instructional strategies that they can use all year long in lots of different settings. They're also growing as a facilitator and a blended learning instructor because that is our focus, is really on building the teacher's skills as facilitating, as promoting that student thinking, as centering students in the curriculum. So the curriculum embedded part of the professional learning, it focuses on areas like facilitation, student thinking, schema building, and the use of instructional stations. It also has an opportunity for problem solving strategy discussion. The problem solving strategy discussion is something I want to share with you a little bit more. One of the things that we do in the curriculum is students solve word problems. They do extended tasks. And what we want to do is we want to help support that as a developing of strategies. So what we teach teachers as part of their training that they receive, and then it is supported through the curriculum embedded professional learning, is how to take what students are doing, the problems that they're solving. A lot of people do problems of the day and then they have a couple of kids share. They might talk about how they solved the problem. But what we do is we push it a step further and we work with the teachers to help them understand, when I have a problem, I should be thinking about the approaches that my students are going to do. I should be thinking about how I want to share student work. So we go through sorting and selecting student work, so that you can actually use students' own work as a data point and to help them deepen their understanding. And so that's what we do in these problem solving strategy discussions. Student work is really the focal point here, and students comparing strategies and deepening their understanding of strategies is part of the work that we do. So that's how we support the teachers. The next group that we support is the community. One of the things that used to I really wanted to do when I was a curriculum director is when we had a program, I had to go before the board and share the data and what we were doing. And what we really wanted to do was to let the kids show what they know and invite the community in. So a unique part of this program is that it builds the community's relationship with math. We have a learning showcase and celebration at the very end, and that invites the families and the students and the board members and the superintendent to come in and see what the students have done. It also serves as an oral defense for the students. They're going to communicate their learning and their thought process as they go throughout this. So I want to give you just a little taste of what the learning showcase and celebration is. It is the final day of the program, and it's really celebrating their achievement. During the program, students will create 2 projects. One is a project they do through a design challenge that I'll talk about later, and that project is to design a game. The second project, they map out their thinking throughout the entire program. And what they do as a result at the very end is they reflect on their learning, their growth, how their thinking has changed, and they work with a group and they create a reflection poster to say, this is what I learned. So when people come to the Learning Showcase and Celebration, they're given these little bookmarks. And what the bookmarks are they are questions that they're going to ask the student so that it's an oral defense for the student. So the student is sharing their reflections, they're sharing their design thinking, they're sharing the choices that they made. And it's really an amazing thing. I've been to a few of these over the course of the past few years where we've been piloting this, and it is amazing to see students who may have started the year feeling like they couldn't do math, standing confidently in front of adults and defending the choices that they made, sharing proudly their achievements and the things that they did. And one of the best parts about it is the people actually play the games that the students created. So you see this pride in kids to be able to have people play the games. And so what it does is it makes connections and it fosters this love of learning. And so those are the 3 things that we focused on: students, families, communities, and teachers. So that's the main focus. And then the other thing we wanted to do was think about the content. We didn't want to have this big breadth of content. We wanted to have really focused content. So we looked at historically where are the areas that students struggle. And in K2, it's operations and algebraic thinking. And in grades 3 through 5, it's fractions. And so those are the 2 areas where we focus. We're focusing on those. So we also build reasoning skills because we know if we build the reasoning skills, if we build the perseverance, then students are able to take that and use that with other concepts. And so that's what we're seeing in this program. So we're going to take a deeper look at what is in the program. Everything is presented to teachers digitally. They will have access to a web page where they can choose their grade level, and then they can pull up all their content. It is a 5-week program, so all of the content is separated into weeks. And so when you go into it, you start with this lesson plan overview. There are lesson plans for every part of this. And so I want to show you what a lesson plan looks like. The blue pages are overview pages. And what these pages are, they give the teachers all the information they need to know. What's the objective? What is it really that students are going to be actually doing? What do I need to have ready? What are my printed resources? What puzzles are we going to do? What are the problems? And then there's also instructional stations embedded in here. So it shows you what the instructional stations are. So the blue pages really are just an overview for the week. We also have this QR code because what we found is that teachers like to print this page. And so if you print the page and you have your phone and you open the camera and you hover it over this QR code, it will take you back to the web page where you have access to all the curriculum embedded information, which includes something called a game in the minute. And what a game in a minute does is it gives teachers an understanding of what the games are that are going to be used that week. It scaffolds and talks level by level what's happening. So the blue pages are the overview, and then the green pages are your daily lessons. And so days 1 to 4, the structure is all the same. I'm showing you a fourth grade example, but I want you to know that K through 5, it's all built the same way. It all starts, the structure is all the same. So days 1 through 4 flow like this. It starts off with something we call a My Thinking path. And that is where students are thinking about the concept ahead of time. So in this particular case, the concept is comparing fractions and understanding equivalence. And so they will write down what they know about comparing fractions and understanding equivalence, what questions they have. And then as they work through the puzzle talks and the problems and the stations, they will continue daily to add how their thinking is changing, new ideas that they're getting, things that they're connecting to this document every day to sort of track their thinking throughout all of this. And so that's how it starts. And then we go into a puzzle talk. So if you're not familiar with puzzle talks, they're like math talks and number talks, where it's focused on student thinking, student strategies, and pulling out the academic discourse. But we're using ST Math puzzles to do that, so that students can actually see and get that visual proof. And so the puzzle talk is what happens next. We also have a math focus that tells teachers strategies and tips of how to engage in the content that week for this lesson. If I've never done a puzzle talk, this is a curriculum embedded professional learning piece. I can click on this, and what it's going to do is it's going to give me a video, a short video that's going to tell me about what puzzle talks look like. It's an animation that shows me what it should look like in a classroom. And then if I want more information about this game, I can click on this right in my document, and it's going to show me a game in a minute. It's going to tell me all about this game so that I, as a teacher, know how it's scaffolded. So as I'm doing the puzzle talk, I have the information I need. After the puzzle talk, they go into problem solving. There's always either a problem of the day and a math journal, or sometimes there's an extended problem of the day. And this is the bridge from what we've done here in the puzzle talk to bridge it now to deepen the learning. So it's all very connected. This is where we're doing that sorting and selecting student work. We're having those conversations with the students. We're using their work as a data piece. And then after the problem solving, they go into stations. So they do 2 stations a day. So the day 1 and day 2 stations are the same so that they'll have a chance to see all 4 of them. And the day 3 and the day 4 stations are the same. All the stations are always a small group instruction station, which is always a rich problem, ST Math puzzle, or an activity that you can do with kids that's really driving towards supporting that small group in learning the concept. We always have an ST Math station, which is the one-to-one experience where students can work in their journey or work in their assignments. And then we always have a game station. These are number sense games, and I'll show you an example of one of these in a minute. But these are number sense games that are designed, that are easy, that are things that kids can do at home. If they like the game, they can teach their families, that use things like cards and tic-tac-toe boards and number lines. But they really focus on helping students build number sense, develop strategies, test their ideas. And then the last station is a design station. And this is the design challenge. And this is where we're using the engineering design principles from Engineering is Elementary, the Museum of Science in Boston. That's where the principles that we're using. And students really actually go through a process similar to like what we do when we're actually developing games, where they have to figure out what they want to build. They have to make a blueprint. They have to test it. They have to prototype it. They test it. They iterate on it. They're going through those cycles. And so the big part of this that I really love is that students play a lot of games, but this really makes them take what they know about games and unpack that, and take a concept and unpack that math concept and figure out, where do kids need help? Where do they struggle? And then they integrate those two and they create a game that's going to either provide practice for students or teach a concept. And they have a booklet, and I'll show you that booklet that they go through, that walks them through each of these steps so that they're actually designing something that is meaningful, that they're using lots of design thinking in the way that they do it. And so that's the design stations, and that's day 1 through 4 is that same structure. The other thing I want to tell you about the stations is every single thing that we have in here, again, we're focused on promoting student thinking. Students are accountable for. They're accountable for their thinking in each of these stations. So every station has an exit ticket where they're going to complete, that's going to let the teacher know what they learned. We have a whole bank of exit tickets that teachers can choose from, so they can decide, I want to know today what really stuck with you, or I want you to just do a brain dump for me. So they're going to have a bank to choose from. But the ST Math Station has a specific reflection sheet. And the reason why is because we want to be able to have a collection of their quantitative data so you can do goal setting. How many minutes, how many puzzles? But we also want qualitative. What is behind that number? Every puzzle is a non-routine math problem. So if they're gaining 25 puzzles, that's 25 non-routine math problems. So we want to know, what is it that you did? Like, what did you learn? What does that connect to? And so that's the kind of exit ticket that's part of this station. But all the other stations have an exit tickets that can be selected from this bank. So that's days 1 through 4. And then I'm going to do day 5, and then I'm going to pause for a minute and see if there are questions that need answering. And then I'll go into more detail and show you what some of this looks like. So day 5 is the design station. And this is where teachers actually take some time and teach some of the design components. So here they're teaching how to build rules and the importance of rules, and how to make rules very clear. And if you want strategy, how does that affect your rules? And so they're really doing that. And they're leading students into thinking about creating the rules and making sure they're blueprinting according to the rules that they did. And so that's what this is. And then we have what we call focused instructional time. So there are stations on the 5th day, but these are stations that teachers decide where students need to go. So this is that focused instructional time. Teachers have been collecting those exit tickets all week. They've been listening to the students. They've been doing that formative assessment. So I know who needs extra ST Math time, who needs extra design station time, and who I want to pull with me into a small group. And we do have an intervention planner that goes along with this, where we help teachers plan out intervention and thinking about, what do I want them to do and what's the evidence that they have done that, utilizing a rich task, our games, or an activity. And I'll show you an example of that. And then the week ends with thinking and reflecting time. So remember, kids have been mapping their thinking. So imagine they have journal notebooks that they've been keeping. So I'm mapping my thinking, and on day 5, I get out that notebook and I'm reviewing my thinking path, all my exit tickets, all the problem solving work that I've done. And I'm engaging in a discussion about what I've learned about math, but not just what I learned, how I thought about math, the kinds of choices and decisions I've made, how I've grown in my understanding, how I answered my own questions that I had written on that first day about the topic, and what other questions that I have. And so they will have a conversation about that, and then they're going to complete an exit ticket that summarizes that learning. And the reason why we have them complete an exit ticket here is because, remember, at the learning showcase, they're creating a reflection poster of all of their thinking. And so it's easy because now I just look at all my summarized exit tickets, and I can come up with a reflection poster that's really telling you what I learned. And so that's why we do that there. So that's the lesson plans. That's how that works. I'm going to pause and see what questions we have. Okay, I see a question about, I see lots of math is cool, so that's good. Don't forget to do that. If you heard something that you like, type math is cool. So they have 2 weeks with a little more than 2 hours for math. Could you pick the 2 weeks? Is it flexible like that? So we've built the program for 5 weeks for 90-minute math lessons for 5 days a week, but it's flexible in a range to do 4 to 6 weeks, 60 to 120 minutes. I will tell you that I'm not sure that 2 weeks would work, but if there are aspects of this, I think reach out to us and we can have a conversation. But this program's really built for 4 to 6 weeks and 60 to 120 minutes. That's the flexibility that's in what I'm sharing with you today. Are there sample lessons posted somewhere that you could look at? Yes, we do have a demo site that can be shared with you about where you can kind of dig in and see some of the content. Let's see. Since summer school sessions okay, so yeah, so it's the 4 to 6 weeks, and it's the 60 to 120 minutes where you're going to get the most impact for what we've designed. It's a 25-day total program. All right, so I think I answered most of those questions. Keep them coming in the chat, and then we do have some time at the end for Q&A. So I wanted to kind of give you a look into the notebook so that you can kind of see how we're having students track their thinking. So remember, they do this through the My Thinking Path, through the exit tickets, the problem of the day, and the math journal prompt. So this is an example of what a notebook might look like. And this is also part of the curriculum embedded professional support that's there for teachers so they can see what a notebook looks like. So this is the My Thinking Path. And this is where students are tracking their thinking around the topic for the week. This is the problem solving. So all of the problems are printable and they're written so that you could cut them out and tape them into notebooks so students could write and write their responses. So then there's also journals there. This is built the same way. This is an example of one of the exit tickets. And then this is an example of the exit ticket for ST Math, where they're talking about their minutes and puzzles, but then they're talking about all the other things that they learned as well. So that's an example of what the thinking path looks like and how students are tracking their thinking throughout the program. The other thing is the puzzle talk lessons. And so if you've never seen a puzzle talk, there's just a little short GIF that shows you kind of what it looks like in the classroom. But essentially, it's whole group discussions around these visual models. It is not teaching the puzzle. It is really sharing strategies, exploring strategies, deepening their understanding of the concept, helping them see the math, discussing their mistakes, and doing a lot of academic discourse. So as part of the curriculum, embedded resources, there's a lot of information about how do you effectively facilitate. There's generic questions for you, but it also talks about the focus on student thinking. So when you ask students to do things like notice and wonder, what are you trying to get them to think about? How are you focusing their thinking? And so it goes through that with teachers. They learn it in training, but then they have these resources. Because how many know that we get things in training and we get so excited about it, but sometimes when we get back, we don't remember everything, or we don't have enough of what we need. So what we're trying to do is, through the curriculum, provide the extra level of support for teachers so that they have everything that they need. So following the puzzle talk is that problem solving. And so I just wanted to give you a look at what this looks like. So these are some examples of the problem solving. Again, they're just really easy for teachers to print out and cut and students to stick into their notebooks. Really easy to do that. And then we have the stations. So I explained all of the stations. So I just want to give you just a little bit of a deeper look. So the small group instruction station is usually around a puzzle or a problem. And so we'll give you a prompt. Teachers obviously can choose a different prompt if they want, but we give you a prompt. And then this is the intervention planner, really where you're looking at, here are my students that I'm working with, what's the math that I'm trying to actually do, and what skills do they need, and how can I connect that? And then what's my evidence? And then there's space for notes. So it's really like looking at and thinking about this from gathering evidence that they're really able to do this and thinking through what that looks like ahead of time. So that's the small group instruction. Then this is the ST Math Station. So if you're familiar, you know it's that one-to-one experience. It's self-paced. We want to have kids have that opportunity to reflect on their learning so they can do the journey or the assignments here. And then here's our Number Sense game station. These are easy games that are lots of fun. There's lots of strategy. We have lots of teachers who actually like playing these games. And so this is an example of what the games look like. There's just like a table tent card if you want to put it on the table like that. So this is number line fraction bingo. So you have number lines, kids can make their own number lines. It's things like this that they could do at home, they could take home and do, could be done for like an indoor recess, lots of other ways to use this beyond this program. And then the design station, and this follows that engineering design process. And so by the end, every student had been working in a group and they will have created a math game. And I will tell you, some of these math games blow me away. Like I would buy them. And I've tried to get them from some students, but they promised them to their teacher already. So I was a little late to that game. But the amount of thinking that kids have to do when they're building these games really helps them build high quality games. So this is the process that they go through. They're asking the question, what am I even doing? And then they're doing these investigations. And the way we have them do that, because I told you we want them to unpack games, and we do this for K-5. So there's a different booklet for kindergarten, first and second grade. And we also have some children's literature books that we recommend when you're doing the design work there, because those are nice connections for them. But for the 3 to 5, we have 2 specific games we want them to play that are games that they might not have played before, because that levels the playing field. So now they're bringing their knowledge of these games that have some strategy into them, and then they're comparing them and figuring out, how did I even do math in these games? So this helps kids to not only focus on the kind of games they want to make, but it keeps everyone from making computation kind of games. This really talks about the mathematics that you're trying to do. So they do some brainstorming, they explore a concept and unpack a math concept. They plan, they figure out their rules, they blueprint and sketch. They figure out job responsibilities, who's going to do what. Then they actually play their own game, reflect, revise. So it's teaching them iterations. They prototype it, and then they have other people play it. So that's what this is. And so just to recap, what you're getting is K-5 full blended learning curriculum. It's built for 5 days a week for 5 weeks, 90-minute math blocks. But again, that can be flexed 4 to 6 weeks, or 60 to 120 minutes. There's the station rotation, and there is a lot of professional learning about how to successfully do instructional stations. And then we have all the curriculum embedded professional learning. And so the training, there is a training that teachers get to help them understand the instructional framework of the program. They actually get to get their hands on the resources. We model, we talk about pedagogy. They get time to plan how they want to do it. We focus on that role in facilitating learning, and the skills and the things that they learn in this program transfer beyond the program and beyond ST Math, or things they can do in the classroom. Teachers who use the program do have access to it for the whole year. So if I'm doing this in summer and I'm teaching second grade in summer school, but I really teach fourth grade, I can have access to the fourth grade during this school year. We also have scope and sequence and lots of other resources. This the reason why I wanted to show you the scope and sequence is to show you that our focus isn't just on the standards. So we have our objectives, we have our standards, an overview of what students are doing, but we also have these ongoing focuses on student discourse, problem solving, and representation. And so all of this is here for students to be able, for teachers to be able to see and know how to plan and how to use this effectively. And so the cost of this is $6,000 per school, which includes everything that you see here, the professional learning, the curriculum embedded support, and you can also purchase additional consulting days, which include having someone in class to do support or site leadership support. And so these are just some testimonials I wanted to share because we've piloted this program for a few years. And the response that we get from teachers, from students, from parents, from administrators and the community is just great. Because it transfers, and what's changing is the narrative for that kid that thought they weren't good at math, because now they see it and they're proving it because they're the author of their own learning, of what they're doing. That agency is being built, that identity is being built. And so it's really powerful. So I just wanted to share some of these with you because I think it's really goes a long way to really giving kids something fresh, especially now when we've had this pandemic going on, that really reinvigorates them and helps them to know that, yes, you can do it. It also has a lot of support for kids, no matter where they come from, no matter their proficiency level, because of the spatial temporal model. So that is the program. Thank you guys so much for your attention. And I am going to stop sharing now so we can talk about any other questions that you guys have. All right. There is a lot of questions in the chat. So let me, I'm going to work through these here and hopefully I won't miss anybody. So somebody asked about the number of students in a class. And so when we created this, it was really on a ratio of 15 to 1. So really thinking about that small group that you typically have for like an enrichment program or a summer school program. Is this offered in the TEA package for Texas? I don't know if we have any Texas folks on the line. I don't believe so, but I don't know if Doreen, if you can unmute and share a little bit more about that. Oh, Damon did. Yes, there's an additional cost for Texas users. Let me see, let me go back. Can this be done virtually? Yes. You will not do everything that you saw here. We do have a virtual program that we're building. It does not have the stations, obviously, but you're still doing the puzzle talks. You're still doing the problem solving, and you're doing this small group. There's a small group component. There's synchronous and asynchronous with the virtual version, and part of the synchronous includes like virtual math talks that you can do with your kiddos using some of our game mats, game boards, just lots of other kinds of cool things that we're working on. Somebody asked about a hybrid. We have not designed this for a hybrid model. Really, it's in person or it's virtual. But that's a good next step for the future, is to think about doing that in a hybrid model. What are your thoughts about implementing the curriculum at the beginning of the school year? I think this is one of the reasons why we wanted to share this with you, because we know that a lot of schools are thinking about a boot camp or a jumpstart or whatever they want to call it, to give their kids that extra boost before school starts. I think this is a great program to do that for all of the reasons that I shared earlier. If you think about where kids are coming in, especially if they've not been in school at all, the confidence level is probably not pretty high. And a lot of kids, when we look at the data and what people are saying about learning loss, the studies, it's greater in mathematics. So those kids that were, I can't do it until, those kids are only going to increase in numbers. And by doing something like this at the beginning of the year, it's like giving those kids that extra extra support that they need to know that they can do math and be successful, all of the social emotional skills, all of the growth mindset that they develop in this program will just carry them through the year. So I do think it is a good program to do at the beginning of the year. It's also a great program to do in the summer. That's where we've mostly tested it, is in the summer. It's a really great way to end the summer and to get kids ready for the next year. Will there be a recording of this webinar? I believe so. Yes, there will be a recording of this webinar. Is there a TEKS version for Texas? So we are doing a scope and sequence for Texas, so you can see how the lessons and activities that are in the program align with the TEKS. So we will be doing that. What if for summer school we're changing all of the kids around to different teachers? So those kinds of questions, like rostering and what room does my kid belong in, we've done a lot of different things in the past. We have, when we've piloted it, we've had kids, if they're just changing for the summer, they still can access their stuff. And so that's something that you can work out in implementation as we discussed. There are some kinds of tips and things that we can give you guys to think about how you want to do it. What I suggest is for students that want something self-paced and they don't want to attend summer school. If somebody wants something self-paced, I definitely would have them do ST Math. And if you talk to your ST Math rep, they can give you some extra support with that. So they can do ST Math and do a math journal every time, or we have a usage calendar that they can do ST Math and track their usage. If they're doing something on their own, that's probably the better thing for them to do, and write their math journals and then turn those in. We have some schools that do that. They do these usage calendars, and we have this summer break challenge that some schools do, and they have the kids do their time on ST Math over the summer, complete this challenge, and then bring that in the first of the year. And that's definitely something that your ST Math rep can talk to you about. We will have one summer school that will draw our targeted students from all of our schools, and that will be in a single school. That is something, as if this is a program that you guys go with, that we will talk about in implementation and figure out how to get the kids in the right spaces. Everything is going to be ready to launch in June. So somebody asked about when the virtual program is going to be ready. So everything will be ready to launch June 1 for schools to be able to start using it. Where can we access these resources if we already have ST Math and want to dig into the resources? You can contact your ST Math rep. And if you don't know who that is, you can send an email to support@stmath.org, and they can get you connected, and they can get you the information on our demo site, and that's where you're going to be able to dig into the resources. Are there any parent resources associated with this program, or is the focus through the teachers? That's a great question. We do have parent resources. We do have a family guide that schools can choose to print out to send home, and that includes hands-on math activities that they could do with their kiddos at home. And it includes some of the games that they will do in summer school. It also includes some tips for helping their kiddo out while they're playing ST Math, so that they're not telling, they're facilitating. It gives them tips for how to support their students. So there will be parent resources that will be available. I think that's all the questions. Are there any more? So if this resonated with you, then type math is cool into the chat, just so I know where we're at. All right. Awesome. And so I see some cost questions. So those cost questions are something that your education partnerships manager will be able to answer for you. And again, if you do not know who that is, or if you just have general questions around pricing, You can contact our support team. Melanie, will you put the support information in the chat so people have it? Any other questions that anybody has about this? Well, I hope you guys are excited as I am about this program. Having seen it firsthand with students, it really is remarkable. I will tell you that we have done this in schools with students from all different kinds of backgrounds. The first year we piloted it, we had a special needs class, and we had a few kids that were in that class that had Down syndrome, and they were so proud of their games that they created, and having people come in and play their games and talk to them. And so it really is something that lots of kids can do. Um, it's a really, really great program. And so I really hope that you guys will consider taking a deeper look and reaching out about it, because it is how we're going to change the narrative, helping students be the center of their math education and author their own learning, and empowering teachers with the tools they need to really facilitate and to use students thinking in deep ways so that we can help support students in deepening their understanding. So all right, well, I'm not going to keep you then. It looks like we're going to get out 10 minutes early. I thank you guys so much for your time. I know that there's a lot going on, and especially some schools are on spring break or getting ready to be on spring break. So we just appreciate you guys being here with us, and reach out with any questions. We are very excited and would love to partner with you on this.